What's going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside Hartford, Connecticut. And today is going to be the first episode of our new series, the Rant series. And this was the team I thought of when I thought about doing this series. I knew this video was going to be one of the first. I knew it. It was just a guarantee. I had to do some time. I had to talk to some people. I wanted to get some quotes that I can include because obviously I wasn't alive for a couple of these things. And I wouldn't remember a couple of these things. But nevertheless, you knew it was going to be the New England Patriots. Come on. I've trashed the Patriots before numerous times in former videos, and I will continue to trash the Patriots in future videos. So this is going to be a fun one. As you can tell, I have bullet points listed all through here, so I'm going to touch each bullet point. I think there's 11 total. Yeah, 11 total bullet points here. So it's going to be exciting. I'm going to, address each one of them. This is definitely going to be one of the longer rant videos just because there's so much to talk about for the Patriots. So without further ado, we will jump into this video. If you guys like this, definitely make sure to leave a like and a comment if you want to address anything that any points that I make. And of course, we're going to start off with the first one here, and that's going to be Spygate. So, essentially, if you don't know what Spygate was, back in 2007, a former Patriots assistant coach named Eric Mangini, who had just become the New York Jets head coach, came out and said, oh yeah, basically what we did is we illegally spied on our opponents. And this was alleged to happen for a little while. Now, side note, I am well aware that other teams also were involved in spying. However, the Patriots were the ones who got caught, and the Patriots were the ones who got punished for it. They were punished. They were docked a first-round pick. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because I know people who like the Patriots will address that, will address this with that. Yes, the Patriots were the only team that got, one of the first teams that got caught. They were punished for it, which is why it's included here. Now, basically what Spygate did is it helped them win the Super Bowls. If you ask any non-Patriots fan, it helped them win the Super Bowls in 2003 against the Panthers and 2004 against the Eagles. We'll get to that Super Bowl shortly, don't you worry. And what they did is they illegally set up, cameras in their opposing teams' locker rooms, and I can go on about this, and I will, but not just the locker rooms, but on the practice facilities and all that when you played in New England. And they would figure out your plays. So you would play New England, and they would mysteriously know your plays coming up. There was quotes from Eagles players and Panthers players from those two Super Bowls, and they were saying things along the lines of, we called this play that we only had called 2 times in the season, and they knew and the defense knew the audible immediately, and they reflected it, and they got a great play, and they knocked it down or something. And it goes to show you that you don't typically know these plays. It's a play that they called 2 times in the season. It's a package that they use 2% of the season. It's not something that you should know off the top of your head. It's not like it was a quick slant, something like that. If we play Madden, you know what I'm talking about. It's not like it was that. No. It was a difficult play that they don't call that much, and you knew it right off the bat. Not a trick play, but something like that. It's just, come on. And again, they beat the Panthers too. So, yes, I'm an Eagles fan, but they also cheated the Panthers out of a Super Bowl attempt. And you got to remember, both those games were close, well-fought games. If they had slaughtered the opponents, I couldn't really mention it. But they won 2 very close games. And both sides, basically, Eagles and Panthers, came out and said it seemed unfair after the fact. They seemed to get stuff done that they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have been able to know that play. And like I said, yes, they did get docked a first-round pick for it. But the thing that really, upsets me is why were the Patriots allowed to get off scotch-free, essentially? They lost a pick, they suffered a fine, and then they destroyed the videotapes. That's the thing that gets me. What was on those videotapes? Was it Super Bowl practices from the Eagles? How about the Panthers? How about the Rams? I'm not going to get to that one because that's a big mess. 2001 Super Bowl is a big mess, and I don't want to get into that one. That's just the Rams choked. But, what was on those tapes? And why did Mangini blow the whistle? Was he threatened in some way, shape, or form by Bill Belichick? Who knows? Now, of course, addressing Spygate, I have to address Spygate 2.0, which occurred in the 2019 season when they played the Cincinnati Bengals, and they were caught, guess what, illegally recording their opponent, the Cincinnati Bengals, who were a bottom feeder in the AFC that year, worst team in the NFL that year, and they got slapped on the wrist. They got fined, but they were like, "Oh no, what we were doing is we were trying to record it for our our new show behind the scenes." Why are you recording an opposing team's practice without their consent? And another thing with Spygate too is a lot of teams would always go out and say, you have to be careful when you're visiting Foxborough. You go in there and there's bugs in the shower, there's bugs in the locker room, there's bugs everywhere. And teams don't want to talk strategy when they play in Foxborough. They just go in there and they leave. That's it. They talk strategy on the plane. They talk very little strategy in the stadium. Now, a lot of teams have said that. Ravens, Colts, Dolphins, Jets, Bills. And it goes to show you don't get a legacy like that of cheating without being caught doing it. And I'm sure a lot of teams do things like bugging, but the Patriots are the one team that everybody knows does it type of thing. And it's never been proven. I mean, I'm sure even if it is proven, what are you going to do? They have a right. It's their locker room, I suppose. But Spygate cheated you guys to 2 Super Bowls if you're a Patriots fan, 2003 and 2004. I call both of those Super Bowls illegitimate. I think there should be asterisks by both of those Super Bowls. And I think it's just complete garbage that there's not. Now, I'm going to skip Deflategate for a second. I'm going to get to the 2004 Super Bowl. Like you all know, I'm a big Eagles fan. So you know that 2004 Super Bowl, that was one of the first Super Bowls I watched. And I remember watching the 03 Super Bowl. I remember watching the 05. I remember watching everyone since 03. But the 04 was the first one I really was rooting for a team in. Because remember, I'm a young kid at this point. I don't have hatred for the Patriots in 2003. Nobody really knows who they are. They're a team that won the Super Bowl 2 years prior. And I didn't care who won, Patriots or Panthers. I was just enjoying football. But big Eagles fan in 04, and it just really upset me. Terrell Owens is out there playing on a broken foot, and of course we know that Donovan McNabb puke story. I'm not going to address that today. But it goes to show you, like I said, Spygate is what triggers it. The Eagles lost a close game, and yes, Andy Reid did some bad clock management. I understand that. But I also remember seeing some cheap hits and all that garbage. I remember seeing Todd Pinkston, the Eagles, I want to say he was their number 2. If not, he was their slot 3 receiver in that year. I think he was the slot 3, actually. He goes out of the Super Bowl with a broken hand. He never played football well after that. Of course, Terrell Owens is already playing on a broken leg, and I remember a couple players taking shots at that leg. So it's just depressing. It's upsetting. This is a team that really should not have been in the Super Bowl in the first place, because we don't know how they got there. We don't know if they cheated their way through the AFC Championship game. We don't know if they cheated their way through the AL divisional, AFC Championship game, AFC, divisional rounds, AFC Championship rounds. We don't know how they got there. And it's upsetting. That's what it is. It's upsetting. It really is. And as an Eagles fan, it really hurts. Now we'll go to Deflategate. And Deflategate was back in the 2015 AFC Championship game against the Indianapolis Colts. Colts shouldn't have been in that championship game, but they had a weird season that year. And after the game's over, shortly after, we hear a story coming out that after the Colts intercepted a football, they brought it to their sidelines, and they found that it was underinflated or deflated. And then we have this whole scandal coming out. And this whole thing comes out that, Tom Brady addressed some guys to deflate the football. And it's alleged that in Tom Brady's phone, he had a guy contact named as the Deflator. And Tom Brady ends up destroying the phone. So there's no proof of that, which I support him doing that. You shouldn't have to give away a phone. That's a privacy concern. That's neither here nor there, though. And so Tom Brady ends up getting suspended for the first 4 games. I believe the 2017 season is what it ends up being, because he ends up fighting it so much. It's either 16 or 17, but Tom Brady gets suspended for 4 games, and he comes back. Actually, it had to be the 16 season, 16 or 18. I think it was the 16 season, because they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. And it just shows you that the Patriots are known cheaters. Now, here's the kicker. And this is the one thing that I will say. They played football in New England in January. Footballs get deflated in the cold weather. So I do support the Patriots on this one. But the way Brady reacted to it, the way Brady treated this whole thing, I do completely understand why people don't like Deflategate. I get it. So I do understand the fine. I do understand the suspension. Just because of how they reacted and treated the whole thing. They should have come out right away. Plus how the Colts handled it. 2 different gauges. Nobody wrote down their readings, their findings. So it's just a mess. So the Deflategate is one that I won't really hate the Patriots for. Now, I mentioned Brady. Tom Brady's bullet point 4 here. Tom Brady. Oh my goodness. I could write a book about my hatred for Brady. And anyone who lives in the New England area that is not a Patriots fan can write the book as well. So, Tom Brady brings so much hate. So I asked one of my friends, what do you hate about the Patriots? And he responds to me, Tom Brady. And I said, well, Brady's not on the Buccaneers. Brady's on the Buccaneers. Do you still hate the Patriots? And he says, yes, because of what Brady did. So, of course, I counter him and I say, what exactly did Brady do? And he reads me, he writes a good list. Spygate, Deflategate, Tuck Rule, which I'll get to shortly. And, just Brady's attitude, how he acts. Very rude guy. And this guy's a Dolphins fan, so he saw Brady play twice a year for, since 2000, 2001? And it's just ridiculous that Brady acts the way he does. Very stuck-up guy, only wants to talk to you when he wins. And I'll get to that too momentarily. But Brady's just got that cocky attitude. And remember back in 2007 when he tried to grow his hair out like that? Yeah, it goes to show you. He's got that cocky attitude. He thinks he's good. He thinks he's this amazing player. And the media pumps him up with, you're the GOAT, you're the best of all time. He's not. All right, give me Dan Marino over Tom Brady. Give me Peyton Manning over Tom Brady. But it's just give me Joe Montana over Tom Brady. Again, different eras. Put them all in the same era. Make them healthy. Give them all the same weapons. And give me Dan Marino, Joe Montana, Peyton Manning over Brady. Okay? Give me Drew Brees over Tom Brady, if I'm being real. But Brady's just a guy who nobody likes if you're not a New England or at this point Tampa Bay fan. The guy's got the attitude. The guy has problems. He gives everybody all the attitude because the media treats him like he's a god. Brady could get caught taking performance-enhancing drugs, and while a good portion of the fans would be like, oh, this guy, the media would say, oh, the drug test was fixed. It's ridiculous. People love Brady. People worship Brady. People will kiss the ground he walked on. Trust me. Up here in New England, if you said anything bad about Brady when he was in New England, you were immediately swarmed by people talking trash. I called Brady a system quarterback back in 2018. I was swarmed. People were like, you're an idiot. You know what you're talking about. Blah, 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 blah. Listen, Brady's an above-average system quarterback. This year, 2020 will prove it, in my view. Brady's just... I had to keep it clean. Trust me, there's a lot of words I want to use to describe Brady, but I can't say them. So I'm gonna get off the topic before I end up really going out. And I said I would mention Brady being a sore loser. I didn't write a bullet point for it, but I just remember the 2017 Super Bowl. After the game ended, I was excited and I was just watching for a few minutes, and I ended up celebrating after the fact. But I noticed that he never shook hands with Nick Foles. You just see him walking away. And I thought, oh, maybe he'll go back. But I didn't care at that point. I went outside. I was celebrating. It was raining. I didn't care. And what ends up happening after the fact is we have this whole thing going on where they're like, oh, well, Brady never shook Foles' hand. And after the game, someone asked Foles. He said he came up with an excuse for Brady. He said, oh, he wanted to go somewhere. Brady never said anything. And then after they played in the preseason in 2018, Brady shook his hand. But fact of the matter is, the Patriots won that preseason game anyway. And the way the camera angles were, they were ready to cut it if he didn't shake his hand. But it's just you're a sore loser. We've always seen it. And you could say that's being emotional. But 53 Super Bowls have been played. 52 times, the losing quarterback has shook the winning quarterback's hand. That's all I'm going to say. Now we get the Snowplow game. And this is one that I didn't know about until my dad told me. And I talked to my dad about it. So I asked him about it. He's a Dolphins fan. And he told me back in December of 1982, it was a strike-shortened season, The Dolphins were sitting with an undefeated record. I think it was 4-0, and the Patriots were a 1-3 team. So they're playing this game in Foxborough, and you might be thinking, oh, okay, well, December snowplow game. Okay, so obviously it's snowing, right? Yeah. So it was a defensive battle. There was not a lot of passing that game. It was mostly a running game. And you get to this point in the fourth quarter where what they had to do is the sidelines, they have to plow the sidelines so you can at least see, okay, this is where, the refs have to know, okay, this is 5-yard, 10-yard, 15-yard, 20-yard marker. And hey, this is the sidelines. So if the running goes out of bounds, you know where he went out of bounds. Okay, the sidelines, he went out of bounds there. So what ends up happening is they have this guy on a work release program. And the Patriots call a timeout, and this guy on the work release program running a snowplow ends up pushing the snowplow, going out of his way and clearing a path for the Patriots kicker. Because at that point in time, 2 or 3 kicks had been attempted, and all 2 or 3 of them had been missed. So they clear this perfect clear spot for the kicker to get a perfect handle and a perfect kick. And you could see the video on YouTube if you don't believe me. So I watched the video after my dad told me about the story, and it's ridiculous. And he goes out there, he kicks this beautiful field goal because the ground's not snow-coated. It's got a very light dusting of snow. But again, they plowed one spot for the Patriots kicker, the home team's kicker. And Don Shula, of course, former head coach, best coach of all time, arguably, who passed away earlier this year in 2020, said after the game, this is garbage. If I would have known what he was doing, I would have put myself in front of that plow. And yeah, should have. It's just ridiculous that the Patriots got their cheating ways in 1982. They were cheating. And it's just, come on, Patriots. They end up winning that game 3-0. And it goes to show you that the Patriots were cheating back then. They plowed a spot for their kicker in a snow game, but not the Dolphins kicker. It's just, and the Dolphins were so confident that the game was going to get, canceled, and they were going to say, okay, the results don't stand because the Patriots cheated, that they didn't even want to, they didn't contest it at the time. Now, there are other cheating moments as well in the Patriots' history. Now, we have the 2016-17 Super Bowl against the Atlanta Falcons, and other times as well, when mysteriously, when playing in Foxborough or playing against the Patriots, teams' headsets jam. Now, it happened to Mike Tomlin of the Steelers as well. Of course, I'm talking about Dan Quinn's Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl. We call it HeadsetGate. Of course, there's no proving this truly happened and that's the Patriots doing. But it just goes to show you that mysteriously multiple times teams' headsets have jammed when playing the Patriots, but it doesn't seem to happen against anybody else. No proof, but it just goes to show you. And then I have Leapergate. So Leapergate happened in 1961. They were playing the Dallas Texans, predecessor to the Kansas City Chiefs. And essentially there's a play where, this is 1961, keep in mind, it's the AFL, not the NFL. And the Patriots think they've won the game. So the fans storm the field. Keep in mind, 1961. And what ends up happening is the refs say, no, there's time for one more play. So the fans all jump back. But a fan manages to sneak his way onto the field, and he ends up slightly deflecting a pass in the end zone as the 12th player on the field. And then he ends up jumping into the crowd. The refs don't notice him. And, he gets a pass breakup. But it's ridiculous that the Patriots got away with cheating in 1961, which is their second year in existence. Again, goes to show you this team is built for cheating. Now we get the tuck roll game. And I had talked to a buddy of mine who was a Raiders fan. And I talked to him about a year ago about the tuck roll game. So he was telling me he was watching the tuck roll game. And he loved the Raiders. He always loves the Raiders. And he just remembers seeing Brady get sacked, loses the ball. His team recovers. And he's cheering. He's like, yeah, let's go. Then they find out, oh, no, it's tuck roll. Of course, listen, tuck roll was a part of the game. It was in the rule book. It was an unknown rule that lasted for about 18 seasons, and Brady was really the only one who got away with it. Basically because he started throwing, it was ruled an incomplete pass. bit of a mess. There's no cheating there in any way, shape, or form. But what it did is it really disrupted the Oakland Raiders. You know, they end up making the Super Bowl in 2002 and they get their butts kicked by Tampa Bay. But it just, you know, it's not cheating, but now I also mentioned, now I have 4 last bullet points here, and they're going to be a little quicker. So geography. You might be thinking, what do you mean by geography? So I live in Connecticut, as you know. And whenever I talk to someone outside of Connecticut, in New England in general, they assume I'm a Patriots fan. And that just pisses me off. I'll talk football with somebody, and they're like, man, your Patriots are doing good. You must like the Patriots. And I just get upset every time someone says that. You know, if I meet someone for the first time we start talking football, they're like, oh, yeah, are you a Patriots fan? And it just upsets me so much. You know, I get so upset because all these people think I'm a Patriots fan. No. I can name quarterbacks. I can tell you who quarterbacks are. You ask most Patriots fans here who, I'll get to that in a second. But I don't want to talk about the Patriots, okay? I'm not a Patriots fan because I live in the Northeast. Stop asking me if I'm a Patriots fan. I hate the dang Patriots. Dynasty. You know, they've had a dynasty. They've been a very good team for a long time. And I don't want to talk about the Patriots dynasty. As you know, they've played in 11 Super Bowls. They've won 6 of them. And they played in 9 Super Bowls. Maybe 10. 9 or 10 in our lifetime. You know, mine and Patrick's lifetime. I don't remember if the 97 one was played in early 97. It has to be. So they played in 10 Super Bowls in our lifetimes. They're 6-4 in those Super Bowls. And yes, they lost to the Packers, but let's talk about the Brady era. So they're 6-3 in the Brady era Super Bowls, which of course include 0-1 against the Rams, which they won, 0-3 against the Panthers, which they won, 0-4 against the Eagles, which they won, 0-7 against the Giants, which they lost, 11 against the Giants, which they lost, 2013 or 2014 against... No, okay, so 2015 against Seattle, which they won. 2016 was not them. 2017 against Atlanta, which they won. 2018 against the Eagles, which they lost. In 2019 against the Rams again, which they won. So, of course, winning 6 of 9 Super Bowls in a 20-year time frame, it just shows you that it's a dynasty. And, again, if you live in New England in particular and you're not a Patriots fan, you cannot stand these people, the dynasty that they have. Especially with all these cheating scandals that they have in them. You know, we have Spygate, Deflategate, Headset Gate here, Tuck Rule, Brady in particular. It goes to show you all the cheating that this team has done to get here. Now, fan base. If you live in this area and you're not a Patriots fan, you know how toxic Boston fans are. Boston fans are almost as bad as Yankees fans. They're arguably worse than Yankees fans. To me, they're worse than Yankees fans. I cannot stand the Patriots in any way, shape, or form, but their fan base is even worse. If you go to the Patriots fans and ask them, hey, who was your quarterback before Tom Brady? They don't know who Drew Bledsoe is. And you could ask them all. If you ask me who the quarterback was before Carson Wentz, I can go on and tell you. But I also understand, 2015 is far more recent than 2000. But if I say, okay, tell me this. Can you name some of the quarterbacks that played when Brady couldn't play in his time frame? They don't know who Brian Hoyer is. They don't know who, Ryan Mallett is. They don't know who anyone is. They definitely don't know who Matt Castle is. And it upsets me that this fan base is so entitled. They're so entitled, and they act like they're this great, amazing fan base that deserves everything that comes their way. No, you aren't. You're Boston fans. Shut up and go home. We don't want to hear you. You think you're better than the Yankees fans, but you're not. Nobody wants to hear Boston fans flapping their gums either. All they do is talk trash, and they're like, oh, Tom Brady's the greatest of all time. No, he's not. He had the best coach of all time telling him what to do. Whoa, Randy Moss is a great player. Yes, he is, but guess what? He's not in the Hall as a Patriot. That's for damn sure. So it's ridiculous. I don't want to hear anything from these Patriots fans who want to tell me that they're the best team ever to play. No, you're not. Last but not least, we have the bullet point here of Hartford. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, here's a brief history lesson for you. As we all know, in the year 1997, the Hartford Whalers cheatedly, due to some garbage scumbag ownership, were left of the city of Hartford in April of 1997 to move to Carolina. Carolina gets a nice rant video too, don't you worry. And it left Hartford without a team. So then, a year later, in November of 98, I think it was, the New England Patriots owner, Robert Kraft, came to the city of Hartford and said, hey, I'm willing to move to downtown Hartford. And they drew up all these plans. News outlets caught wind of it, and they released it. And they ended up releasing, season ticket slots so people could buy season tickets. And my dad and my aunt, what they did is they pooled their money together, and they got themselves a ticket. And what they would do, they got themselves 2 seats. So what they would do is they were gonna, split it and do 4 games for one, 4 games for the other. And they were very excited. Neither one of them's Patriots fans. And this was the real part that ended up killing any hope for the Patriots fans to my dad and my aunt. So they were excited. My dad's like, look, it's going to be great. I can take my son, keep in mind I'm a newborn at this time, to Patriots games. Maybe he'll be a Patriots fan. And hey, I have a second child on the way, who'd be my sister. Maybe they'll be a big sports fan too. We don't know. And they were all excited. And my aunt, she was young enough. She was excited to go. She was just getting out of college at this point in time. So she was excited to go to football games, maybe meet some people, all that good stuff, bring a friend. And it was going to be a blast. But then a year later, they end up killing the deal. They're like, oh, never mind, we don't want to do it. So it got everybody's hopes up, and then they just took it away. And years after, Kraft admitted, oh, well, what we were doing is we were using Hartford as leverage. You don't do that. You don't do that. That's complete garbage. To use a city as leverage, a city that just lost a sports team a year earlier, their only sports team, no less, as leverage. I just don't understand it. And when I heard this story, because my dad told me about the season tickets, that just upset me. I'm just like, are you kidding me? They just used the city as leverage? They used a city that was in turmoil, losing their sports team a year earlier, as leverage? And, I think of this. If the Patriots had moved to Hartford, there's a very good chance that today I would be a Patriots fan. But no, I can't support a team that screwed over my state like that. And here we are, we're based in Hartford, Connecticut, so this is why I don't watch Patriots games. All this garbage that they've done in the years. And I remember Spygate. I remember when the news came out. I remember talking about it at school shortly after, at the lunch table. I remember Deflategate, of course. At this point, we were not in... we were in school when Deflategate came out, senior year. And we were talking trash. We were like, come on, Patriots cheated yet again. I remember all the times we'd talk about Brady. Remember Deflategate, of course, like I said. Remember talking about the 2004 Super Bowl after the game. How toxic the fan base was before and after that game. How toxic they were before Super Bowl 52. And how quiet they were after the Super Bowl. That was also fun. And I remember talking about Tuck Rule, of course, after the fact, years after the fact. I remember talking about the headsets getting jammed. I remember watching the Leaper video in school. It's just ridiculous. And Patriots don't deserve anything, okay? The Patriots are a dirty, cheating organization that I want nothing to do with. They screwed over my state so they can go away. I hope the Patriots enter a long-time, horrible... They deserve a millennium of garbage. They deserve to struggle for a millennium. I hope they never make another Super Bowl. Screw the Patriots, man. This was a long video. We're approaching the half-hour mark. But if you hung around, I appreciate it. Screw the New England Patriots. There's a lot more I want to say, but I got to censor myself. Have a good one, guys. Again, this was the first episode of our Rant series.